And greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. The sounder says, please pay attention. We hopefully have something worthwhile to say. Hi, Stan Houston for Interesting Ideas as we kind of flow into a Monday evening and trying to gear up for the week. We are now right into the summertime for sure here in North America, in the Northern Hemisphere. And what are your summer intentions now? Just think about that. You've got a plan now. You've got to decide where you're going to go and what you're going to do and how you're going to make your summer. How's that going? Well, one of the things that struck me was something that came from one of the radio publications, and the question was, did you have another worthless weekend? Well, that's a great question. By the way, there is a reason for that in a radio publication, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that today. And however, here was something that really struck me. It simply said, am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I where I'm supposed to be? And it's from no name. So I guess they're a little bit anonymous, but that's a great question. Am I where I'm supposed to be? Interesting ideas. Let's see if we can make it worthwhile on this Monday evening as we think about what we're going to be doing and answer that question. Interesting ideas. The program begins right now. Well, over the weekend, I was honored. I don't really like these Hallmark holidays, as we call them in our family, but my family did do a few things to say thank you to Dad and to the way I was treated. We had a nice Sunday brunch after church, and it was a good day. And then spent some days watching some very unique films on Netflix, which were challenging, but also very reflective and made you really appreciate, in some cases, the good situations that we were in, as we saw some films about some of the occupation during World War II and what some of those people went through. Well, first of all, worthless weekend. In radio, oftentimes that's what happens. Now, you see, the problem with traditional radio is you actually have to be on the air almost all the time. You can't take a day off. You can't take the weekend off. You've got to be on the radio. Sometimes you have to be on 24/7, though a number of stations still follow the tradition of saying, you know what, through the night, we'll just turn on the robots and have them play music and do a little bit of chatter. But you have to have somebody there doing the work on the weekend. The problem is, oftentimes, even though it's weekend and you're hoping that people will spend more time on the radio, well, they're not. They're not driving, and many people actually only listen to the radio when they're in their car. And so oftentimes it's hard to sell advertising for the weekend. And so it could be that they were on the air and spending time and energy and, of course, money. And it was worthless. It was a worthless weekend. That's always something that the radio folks have to deal with. Now, those of us in the podcasting business, we've solved that because we can be on the weekend, but we could have produced that program anytime, anywhere, and so we can still have our weekends off, and yet our program is still being broadcast, still being placed on the radio 24/7 around the world. So that's what the radio business was and still is, but if you're smart and you're thinking about being on the radio, this means this media, the new podcast phenomenon, is actually where you should be. However, am I where I'm supposed to be? Now, That's a very good question. Now, here's what we're discovering. And many of us now know this, and it's a little bit discouraging in some respects. Whether we like him or not, Donald Trump, when he was in the midst of that mess, was trying to figure things out. And the question he asked, he said, could it be that the cure is worse than the disease? And obviously the cure was this incredible lockdown, taking our children out of school, putting businesses under the wire, all of those things that went into the lockdown and the mask phenomenon. Could that actually be more costly in some cases than the cure? And of course, now we're discovering that many of the things that we encountered and maybe were mandated to do and businesses were forced to do, it could have been that, in effect, the cure was worse than the disease. And so many things probably should have been done differently. However, one of the things that happened during the COVID shutdown is a number of people all of a sudden found themselves doing very little. And yes, the Netflix subscription went way up and people spent hours and hours just binge watching television. Certainly overeating too much. Many of us are still struggling with what happened there. So all of that stuff happened. But what it also caused people to do is, since they were not able to do their work, they had more time to think about their situation. And now what has happened is a number of people, they just simply are on the move. And the moving business and the U-Haul business and those kind of people are doing quite well because according to Forbes magazine, that about 27 million Americans now are making the move each year. They're moving someplace else. They're going someplace else. And that's very much what happened to me and Karen and I, that all of those things caused us to look at some of our priorities about family and work and place, and we made the decision to make a move. And it seems that a number of people have gone through that experience too. Am I where I'm supposed to be? Are you struggling with that? Well, one of the things I'd like to try and suggest you do is, if you do find yourself in that situation, sometimes I know it's going to happen now. Someone is going to open a business, a coaching business called Should I Make the Move Coach? In fact, maybe you should do that. And what they're going to try and do is they're going to say, okay, we will coach you and help you to figure out whether you should make the move. I'm not going to go in that business. That's not what I do. But let me just suggest a couple things that might be helpful to you, all right? First of all, remember that we are not necessarily made as human beings for the same place. We are made, God graced us with incredible creative instincts. We are very, very different from all the other animals who basically spend all their time looking for food, looking for a mate, and finding a way to protect themselves from other predators or elements. And that's what they do. They have food, if they have some kind of shelter when they need it, when they have some kind of perhaps mating instinct when they need to, that's what they do. We seemingly are in the business of seeking change, seeking something better and greater and new and more fulfilling. In effect, we are made not just to be material animal beings, we are spiritual beings. That's what we are. And so, may I suggest that you take the expression of what we call principle number 2. In what we call the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience, principle number 2 is we are spiritual beings, but we're having a human experience. And so we are made for growth. We are made to go forward. We are made to seek new adventures. We are made to sometimes take substantial risks. That's how we were designed. And in doing so, we have the opportunity for great accomplishment and great achievement. Unfortunately, if we are wrongly directed or wrongly inspirited, obviously we can cause a great deal of harm and pain and obviously terrible things for other people. Somehow, unfortunately, Mr. Putin decided that he would only be happy if he could restore the Russian Empire, and so that led to his adventure in Ukraine. Obviously, most of us don't try and fulfill our needs that sadly and terribly and disastrous. Sometimes we just fulfill them in ways that are not necessarily very helpful to us. So maybe one of the things you need to do this summer, and I don't have any particular ways, though I have a number of good questions I could ask you. Be glad to help you. Is this the summertime that I should really ask myself that question? Am I where? In all kinds of things. Relationships, career, job, locality. Am I where I'm supposed to be? And just kind of see where the inspirited, inspired stuff in your life may lead you. Am I where I'm supposed to be? I'm Stan Houston. Some interesting ideas. We'll be right back. And just a couple more comments that hopefully might be helpful to you. Interesting ideas. StanHouston@gmail.com. StanHouston@gmail.com. One of the things that struck me, and maybe I'm a little bit nasty, but it was a stupid comment. During this celebration of Pride Month that went wrong with the White House celebration, Joe Biden made the comment that some of those people who were involved in that event, who were going through some process either of transformation or whatever it might be, they were some of the bravest people he had ever met. I really can't believe that's true. I think he probably has, but there certainly are other people who've been extremely brave. And here's one that I didn't even know of, but let me tell you the story that I heard, and I'm going to do it a little bit myself. Supposedly there is a gentleman who is well known, well, obviously not very well known, called Horace Greeley. And the question was, how many times did Horace Greeley escape as a POW, and what was his motivation? Okay, here we go. This was the answer that a gentleman in Quora magazine, online magazine, put together. The man's name was Horace Greeley. He was a British POW famous for escaping over 200 times to visit his girlfriend, a local Jewish girl. Why did he keep coming back? Loyalty. He returned every time to the prison camp with extra food or other contraband to share with his fellow captives. Greasley spent 5 years as a prisoner of war, during which time he served as camp barber, and he worked in the marble quarries. Following capture, the men were forced to march for 10 weeks from France to Poland. The men suffered deplorable conditions and spent a winter in temperatures as low as 40 degrees centigrade, minus 40 degrees centigrade, that is. Lodged in an old horse stable, those who survived the march and train transfer were beaten, tortured, and starved. Greasley was once beaten so badly he lay unconscious for 2 days. In a 2008 biography, and this is the one I have to check out, Do the Birds Still Sing in Hell? Wow, what a title. Do the Birds Still Sing in Hell? It was published. I'm going to have to check that out. He died in 2008 at the age of 91. Wow. I've got to check out more about that. Name is Horace Greasley. Greasley. Let's see what that brings to mind. One of the things that I think has really struck me in some of the things I've been writing and thinking about is just how incredibly courageous and brave so many people have been and have lived such extraordinary lives of courage and help in the service of others. And oftentimes it was certainly not where they wanted to be, but it's where they were. And obviously they made an incredible contribution to others and perhaps the human species by their example. Maybe something to think about as you ask yourself the question, am I supposed to be where I am? Or where am I supposed to be right now? I'm Stan Houston. The program is Interesting Ideas. By the way, all of our 700 plus programs, this podcast, various vintages, have gone back and they are now on a YouTube channel just simply called Interesting Ideas. That's it. That's the YouTube channel, Interesting Ideas with Stan Houston. And there you can go back and, as a number of people have done, you can just kind of binge on all of my storytelling, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. Hey, all the best and blessings to you as you enjoy your summer intentions, and maybe some of the wisdom, insight, and truth that might come to you in this 2023 summertime. Take care, and bye for now.